Welcome back to Take a Knee with Mike and JD. I'm JD.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to be talking about the upcoming 2023 season for our team. So I'm a Steelers fan and Mike's a Packers fan. So we're coming off a year where both of our teams did not make the playoffs. We were close. We lost basically on the last day there. One of us in heartbreaking fashion. The other one, the Steelers won, but we needed like six other teams to lose and a tie to take place. So it was one of those weird scenarios where a lot of stuff had to happen, but it was the last game of Aaron Rodgers, so it was turning over a leaf. Last year was the first year without Ben Roethlisberger, so our teams are starting into this rebuild. So after last season, this whole Aaron Rodgers trade debacle that's been happening over the last couple months, how do you feel about the Packers now, the first couple weeks into the preseason, and what do you expect from them this year?
Yeah, I feel pretty excited, and I'm pretty relieved that all the Aaron Rodgers shit is done. It's like I know he's a great player and all that kind of stuff, but it gets a point where all that shit's draining. It's interesting to see, kind of thoughts of like the other fans and that, a lot of people, which I think they're more Rodgers fans than they were Packers fans, still having pot shots at the front office and that kind of stuff. But I've been ready to move on from Rodgers for like a year or two.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of him at one time, but just the constant passive aggressive bullshit and all that, it's just he's got to be pretty toxic. And I mean, it's very early days into the Love era, and I don't even think it matters how good or bad Love is. I mean, I personally, I'm very optimistic of what I've seen in preseason so far. I think I think finally they're going to be playing as a team, not Aaron Rodgers and some other blokes, because that's how it's felt for a long time.
Yeah, it was however far Rodgers could take them, basically, is how it felt for basically since they won the Super Bowl like 12 years ago. It's always they'll go as far as Rodgers takes them, basically.
Absolutely, and I don't. I thought for a few years he can't take them any further. He's owns the regular season as much as he owns the Bears, but once it gets to the postseason, it never works out, and it's always someone else's fault. Whereas if you take off the Rodgers loving glasses and you look at those games a bit more critically, yes, there's mistakes on defense, which always happens. There's been all this other shit that happens, but a lot of the times, and especially in the recent years where the organisation has focused a lot on the defence, he's been given more than enough ball, and other quarterbacks could have got it done. And I don't even mean, other elite quarterbacks the playoffs, not last year, the season before. I think you put most competent quarterbacks in there, and they had enough ball to get it done, but he couldn't. So at the end of the day, if you wanna take pot shots at your organisation all the time, sometimes even your fans, you want to do all this, you've got to produce on the field. And I mean, that's the thing. If he's winning the Super Bowls that Mahomes is, say whatever you like, Rodgers. Call me a cunt to my face. That's cool. But when you're not, I'm not here for the rest of it. So, I was really excited about the last preseason game, especially. Watching Love in the first couple of series, when he was playing the first defense of the Pats, who look like they'll be a pretty decent defensive unit. I thought he was really good, that especially that throw to put I can't think of his name. One of our new guys, number 11, Reed, to put Reed in for the touchdown was pretty on point. I'm excited to see what happens, and whether or only time will tell if Love's the answer or whatever. But if he's not, we draft another quarterback in that. But I'm just excited to see a team that seems excited. There's a lot of young players in this team. They all seem to, really enjoy playing together. Whereas I haven't felt like that for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of because Rodgers, never wanted to work with the young receivers and that kind of stuff. But you see a lot of stuff about loving the receivers, getting together, doing extras, that kind of thing. And I think that's what needs. And I can understand Rodgers' point of view where he doesn't need the work and that, but when you're bringing in rookies, they're the ones that need the work. And it's a nice little slap in the face to all the Packers fans that he is apparently going to play in the last preseason game, and he has been coming to OTAs and all that kind of stuff. And you think, wow, when we were in pretty big windows to be a contender for the Super Bowl, would have been great if you did that then, mate. But that's cool. I guess your latest darkness retreat told you that was the thing to do. So go for it.
Yeah, it's definitely funny because when you think of the Packers now, or during the last decade, when you think of the Packers, you always thought first of Aaron Rodgers, and he's no longer there. Sometimes I forget he's no longer there because, he was a Packer for a decade and a half. But it seems like the sort of black cloud is off of Green Bay right now, and they seem more like a team where before it seemed like there's the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers, and then there's the Green Bay Packers kind of thing. They seemed like separate, and it's okay. It's fine for a player to have issues with their front office, depending on. I mean, obviously he was upset when they drafted Jordan Love because he felt that he could play for 5 or so more years, and they're drafting a guy. But they didn't do any favors for Jordan Love to put him in that situation because it didn't seem like Rodgers wanted to help him or teach him, just like with the wide receivers. But it seems like the Packers can be a team more that I could root for. Now, obviously, they beat us in a Super Bowl, so it's always hard to say you'd root for the Packers. But they just seem more fun to watch than now that they don't have Aaron Rodgers kind of thing. And that might be people's perception of the Steelers once they got rid of Big Ben, a lot of his off-field antics and stuff like that. But I was just coming into this season, we were both pretty happy with our team's respective drafts. The year before, we were kind of perplexed with some of the first-round draft picks. The Packers had 2, the Steelers had 1, and we went with Kenny Pickett. But this year, the Steelers had one of the best drafts that they've had, I think, in the last maybe 15 years. Now, none of these players have played a regular season game yet, but it just seemed like they were getting these first-round talents in the 3rd round. They were getting second-round talents in the 5th round. They were just getting these great values for their picks. And it just seems like we got a preview last year where they were 2-6, and they were awful. They put Pickett in, and he just continued to play better and better every single game. Now, he finished with 7 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. The bulk of those interceptions were his first 2 or 3 games. And honestly, I would have rather him have struggled out of the gate, which is what he did, where he had to go, his first start was in Buffalo. Then he had to go into Philadelphia, teams that have really good defenses. And he also had to go into Miami. And he had chances to win in that Miami game, and he threw 3 interceptions, 2 big ones at the end of the 4th quarter. But you saw how he can win you ball games. And I think people's perception of him are thinking that the Steelers think that they found kind of the prime Big Ben, the guy who might throw 25, 30 some touchdowns a year. But that's not what they've built this offense around. Kenny Pickett is supposed to be more like a older late stage career like Alex Smith, like a guy who can manage the game for you, who could pick up a first down with his legs and could make throws when they need to. But they've clearly built their offense around the running game with Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, who are really good running backs. So to see the team start to gel at the end of last year, and then to add in these guys where you get Broderick Jones in the 1st round, you got Joey Porter Jr., who had a pretty good preseason game, and then you have the Herbigs who came in, and Washington at tight end and stuff like that. Keanu Benton, this is the most excited I think I've been for a Steelers team since probably 2017, when they had that really good team 13-3. It just seems like, we're kind of spoiled. You think of the Cleveland Browns, who can't get it right year and year and year and year and all this stuff like that. The Steelers just took 1 year in between their franchise quarterback to really put together a team that could take them back into the playoffs. So you forget how well an organization is run when you're losing. You're like, oh, these guys don't know how to do it anymore, and then they put together just an amazing offseason. So I think that, they can win. I think, the height, they might win 12 or 13 games. I don't think that they lose. I don't think that they win less than 9. I think they'll somewhere between like 9 and 10 as the floor and 12 and 13 as the height, and they probably will contend with Cincinnati and Baltimore for the division, but they'll probably a wild card team. But last year felt like they wouldn't be very good and they weren't to start, but this year it's just exciting. These first two, they won their first 2 preseason games. Kenny Pickett has made some amazing throws. Last week, he hit a perfect throw to Pat Freiermuth for a touchdown where he was the defender was leading with Pat Freiermuth, and Kenny Pickett threw a back shoulder. Freiermuth just had to turn around, catch it, and he was in the end zone. So you like to see that, like how he's reading these defenses and can make these throws and stuff. So as a Steeler fan, I don't know how you cannot be excited for this team. They're super young. They signed Alex Highsmith this offseason. They signed Minka that offseason before. They signed TJ Watt 2 seasons ago. There's not really any of these players who are on their expiring contract. They have all these guys for the next at least couple of years. So that's always kind of the nervous thing you have, is this guy's coming into a contract year or whatever. He could get hurt, or what if he doesn't play well, or he might be gone, so we have to replace him. This is kind of the first season in a while that this team is what the team is going to be moving forward. So I'm quite happy. I think that they'll even get better next year.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like the Packers and the Steelers are in fairly similar positions. But you guys are about a year ahead. And I just hope that, and I know the organisation will be patient with Love, and I like the fan base is going to have to be as well. But and I might be being too optimistic, but I think Rodgers never fit the game plan and the style that Matt LaFleur wants to play. And there was a lot of times where he would throw outside of the game plan and that, and that's fine. I've been seeing a lot of analysts, less so lately because he's having a pretty good, especially the later part of the preseason Love. But you listen to people like Colin Cowherd, and that's my fault listening to Colin Cowherd. The kind of dribble you're going to get. But he went on a big tirade about he's just a game manager. There's nothing special there, and that I don't agree. I think he is more of a game manager and will work more than a game manager, will work into it. But at the end of the day, I think if he's just a game manager, if that is his flaw, that's fine. It's you don't have to do these crazy throws that Rodgers does and that kind of stuff. That's great if you can, but you look at LaFleur's schemes are the same as Shanahan and that. It's from that same tree, and all Love has to do is go through his 1 and 2 progressions, and if they're not there, that, there is always a dump off, with the running back or something like that. That's how it's designed. So just go through progressions, make the throw that's there. Especially at the start of his career, that's all he has to do. He doesn't need to do all this crazy shit that Rodgers would do, and a lot of times it didn't work out. Because of how much I bitched to you about it during games where. We're 3rd and short, and fucking Rodgers is heaving it into the end zone. Fucking just take what's there. And if Love does that in terms of the way it suits the team, that will be a huge upgrade.
Mm-hmm. And that's I guess the one downside that I am looking at right now is Matt Canada's offense. Like I said, it did start to work a little bit better once Kenny Pickett got used to it, but he should be on a pretty short leash right now. And their offense has been scoring, but he had this issue where it was a lot of run into the 1 or 2 hole first down, pick up a yard, and then he'd run a jet sweep or a bubble screen and maybe pick up 2, and they'd be stuck in these 3rd and 7s where they're hard to convert and stuff like that. And it just felt like that was just how we would start games over and over and over again. We just weren't getting into rhythm. So these preseason, yes, we're not playing. Some starters are playing, some starters aren't. You might not be playing first team defenses in the preseason, but you're still playing bodies, guys who are still trying to tackle you, still trying to stop these throws from going through like that. And even if say they are making these plays against second or third teamers, they're still making them. So there's really no downside to it. In the fact that they're making them and they should build confidence in themselves to make that in games. So the only thing I think about the Packers is that, Jordan Love is coming into his fourth year in his rookie contract. He only has an option year left, which I'm not sure if they executed his option or not for next season. But if he plays well, they're going to have to shell out the bucks for him all right now. So you've just gone from a big contract with Rodgers. Yes, you're playing Love on a rookie deal for 1 year, but then his extension or his fifth year option and then a big extension. So they could handicap themselves a little bit with the cap, but whereas the Steelers, they have all these young guys on their rookie deal still for 2 to 3 years. So it'd be interesting to see how the Packers are able to maneuver that, because that's the other side of the game is cap and keeping all these players. But it's time for, Jordan Love has had 3 years on the bench. You would hope that now he's not playing in games, so you would hope that doesn't hurt him. He went from college in 2012 and then barely played in any games over the last 3 years, which is a long time to sit on the bench. It is funny to say that he was drafted in 2020.
Exactly. It's a long time ago.
And it's not like he was a sixth rounder who's been... he was a first round pick, and he just has been sitting and waiting. So, Rodgers had to wait a little bit behind Favre, so you hope that it's... it would be amazing for the Packers to go from Favre to Rodgers to Love, and for 30 years just have a quarterback every 12, 15 years that, could go out there and win you games. The Steelers started that with Roethlisberger. You hope that Pickett for the next decade could at least manage games and get them wins and stuff. But the only kind of thing I'm worried about is the offensive coordinator and the play call and stuff like that. Our defense should be really good. We've definitely upgraded in pass defense. The issue that we were having is when you play the 3-4. You have to have really good corners in order for quarterbacks to get sacked, because you have the linemen in front making holes for the linebackers who are a couple yards off of the line of scrimmage to come up and make that sack. So you need these really good cover guys, and you saw that in the mid to late 2000s with Ike Taylor and Deshaun Townsend and Ryan Clark and Troy Polamalu, where they were just locking wide receivers down and they were just sack over and over and over again. Whereas the last couple of years, besides T.J. Watt, they weren't getting a ton of sacks. So they got Joey Porter Jr., they signed Patrick Peterson, which, yes, he's older, he's a Hall of Famer, but I think that was intentional to sign him and then draft Joey Porter Jr. so that you have this guy groom him, and he seems like he's willing to go through with these young guys too. That's what you love in a veteran who knows that he's near the end of his contract, knows that he's near the end of his playing career, and pass some stuff off, unlike Rodgers, who seems to not want to do that with his young guys. But we have one final game tomorrow in Atlanta, and then I think it's 10 or so days is when the season starts. So we'll be back then. I think before we'll do our prediction streams for records and awards and stuff. I don't think we hit any of the awards last year because there was a lot of injuries and stuff like that. But
yeah, we didn't go too well.
Yeah, so we hit divisions really well. Some divisions we picked right on the dot, and other divisions it was crazy. Like that AFC West totally threw us off last year with Denver and stuff like that. So we appreciate.
Well, that's it. I remember. Sorry, just interrupt. I remember, thinking that the Broncos were going to be so, that they got their missing piece in Russell Wilson. It still blows my mind how bad that all went.
Yeah. So. So we'll get into that when we do our standing. So we appreciate you guys for listening. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing. Comment down below how you think this season's going to go for your team. But thanks for listening. We hope you guys have a nice day.
Thanks, guys.